The big question and the answer we will be talking to you about tonight, of course, is the only channel on Indian television where you get authentic surveys, minute by minute, really day by day, where we look at really the UTVi free voter surveys, which looks at the state of the economy, not just urban economy, not just what the urban voters or really the urban people of this country think about the budget and the government, but for the first time, an extensive across India study by our team. What is the mood in rural India? What does rural India really think? That's the big issue that we are targeting tonight on the People's Budget. I'm Hindostan Gupta, of course. Our old friend Devinder Sharma here. Remember, he's one of the strongest and the most powerful voices for the agrarian community in this country. The big question then, what has our survey found? What does it really mean? Remember, a huge part of India, especially North India where I'm sitting, and of course the fear of rains has moved us away from my usual haunt at Vijay Chowk into our studios. But remember, North India continues to suffer, in some states, 70% less rainfall than average. That's a drought-like situation. That's why we're discussing what rural India really feels. First, the survey. What does the survey really say? First, let's take something that we've really been concerned with in the budget. Really, what happens when there is a loan waiver? What a politicized issue that. Our survey looked at who takes loans, why do they take loans, and what happens when the loans are taken. We asked people, what happens when loans are waived? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Does it help you? 37% said it gave temporary relief, 28% said permanent relief. What happens? Do loan waivers really stop suicide? 39% said yes. But remember, and this is something that continues to shock me, almost 60% people said no. Alright, have you taken a loan? That's the other question we asked. 62% said yes, and this is the other thing that you should be worried about, I should be worried about. 40% of those people took loans not from a government institution where their loans could be waived, but from a local money lender where no matter what the government says, they will still have to really pay back that money in, no matter what they do, on huge amounts of interest. Alright, the other thing, what amounts did you take as loan? And really, all of us sitting here in urban India should be shocked by this. 37% took loans of less than 10,000 rupees. 30% took loans of less than 30,000 rupees. Ladies and gentlemen, 30,000 rupees is what costs you and me for 5 or 6 dinners in a place like Delhi or Mumbai if you go to a Tony, Swish, upscale restaurant. That's the amount of money hundreds of farmers in this country die for. And of course, lots of other surveys, as you can see flashing on your screens, on this survey. You can ask any question. Devinder Sharma is here. Devinder Sharma, you've seen the survey.
Yeah.
We were talking about it. There seems to be, underlying all of it, there's a lot of trouble, but some senses there seems to be a slight degree of optimism. Where does that optimism come from?
Well, I think that's remarkable about Indian agriculture. If you look into rural areas, what you are showing on your television screen, that they have 10,000 rupees is what the bulk of the people go for as a loan. You'll be surprised that 68% of people who committed suicide in Vidarbha actually had an outstanding due of only 8,000 rupees. 8,000 rupees, somebody will kill himself. Imagine that happening in the urban areas. So that tells you the realities that we are living in. But, the remarkable thing about rural India is, despite hoping against hope or living in a condition that, I think they don't see anything happening, but yet I find people are very optimistic and they still feel tomorrow will be a better day.
Some things seems to have, our service suggests, some things seems to have changed for the better in the last 5 years. One of the things that seems to have changed for the better is roads, local roads inside villages. 31% saying that the situation had improved, and of them, almost 20% saying that the sarpanch deserves credit for it. Also, the other thing that people said seems to have improved was main roads connecting villages. 32% people in the survey said that things had improved there, and 23% said the state government was to get credit for that. Do you believe roads have changed?
I don't know, because I don't know which part you are talking about.
Right.
But it will depend upon what. But generally, if you go to rural areas, the connectivity is appalling, and I don't think what comes out in this survey is a reflection of the entire country's conditions as far as rural areas are concerned. But yes, in some areas, let's take Punjab for instance. Punjab, it happened when Lakshman Singh was the chief minister. People wouldn't remember him. He just came for 6 months, and he had a dream to be remembered in history. So he went to MS Randhawa. The story is like this. Randhawa told me, he's dead now. And MS Randhawa said, if you really want your name in history, you try to connect every village with a mandi in Punjab. He did it.
And that's the microcosm of Vajpayee's dream for
That's
him.
right. So we want to follow that model.
Right.
And I think it has happened in Punjab, so he wants to link it up now everywhere. I'm not sure how far that will be true for Uttar Pradesh, for instance, or true for Bihar, or true for Madhya Pradesh, for that matter.
Okay, so according to you, what are the 4 or 5 things, or maybe even the top 2 things where things have got better? Because according to our survey, some of the things that have gone worse, for instance, is power. Actually gets worse and more worse and more worse. But if you look at some other things like, are you getting kerosene? That seems to have got a little bit better, or at least has not significantly got deteriorated. Is your health services a little better? Some, in many places, those basic dispensaries, now if you break a hand, it's not like you won't get somebody to repair that. Those things seems to be happening. Would you say that in some senses, some basic things that are happening, especially with NREGS and all of that?
Yes, I guess so. It is happening. In fact, not only with the NREGS, but if you look at many state governments have come up with what in the studios we call it political decisions and not economic. But for instance, providing cycles, bicycle to the girl child, going to the schools. I think that was a remarkable effort. And look, some governments have also gone in for providing television sets and so on. So things are definitely improving for them. But yes, over and above, I think what has actually improved, or why they are, as you rightly said, why they're looking up, is because last 4 years, the procurement price of wheat and rice has really checked up. For whatever reasons, in the 4 years, you find 69% increase in the wheat price, and as far as rice is concerned, 61%. Similarly, 35% roughly is the increase in sugarcane price. This has been remarkable, outstanding from any kind of standard, because in the last 60 years, we haven't seen that kind of increase happening. In fact, prices were frozen before, I would say, 2004. So I think that has also given a kind of encouragement, or people are looking up, because that's a very important sector.
Okay, the other big question is, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that some of the optimism comes from the fact that actually at the ground level, people have more money in their hands. That's what a price increase really effectively means, that they're able to sell for more money. If you look at the FMCG sector, which is the 4th largest really sector in the country, industrial sector in the country, so much of the basic ingredients, look at soaps, for instance, and look at cycles and two-wheelers, a huge percentage, in some cases more than 50% of the purchasing power comes from rural economy. We've seen this entire downturn where essentially you're saying some of the reasons why India did not face the kind of downturn it could have is because of the power of the rural economy. Do you believe in that power of the rural economy, or do you feel in some senses it's overstated? Because there seems to be a dichotomy, isn't there? So many people dying, so many people don't have basic services, and yet that rural economy seems to boost you in times of trouble.
Well, I am not very sure that is true, because if you look at the realities, the NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, itself says that the average income of a farming family in India, I'm talking about farming family, per month is rupees 2,115. 2003, 2004. Today it might be 2,500. If 2,500 rupees is the average income of a farming family, I think bulk of India is living at poverty line.
But they're also buying tiny sachets of shampoos. They're buying
that's the cause for worry. That shows that marketing blitz is so strong, so powerful that they don't spend on food. If you look at another NSSO survey, it says the intake of food has gone down even in last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And what are people doing? They're spending their money on these kinds of durables or whatever, consumer goods, which I think are not required. But there is a lot of attraction, there's a lot of allurement that you must buy shampoo and you'll get a gold coin in it, and all those kinds of things are happening. And don't forget, the SHGs, self-help groups, are also being used. They're becoming a kind of a channel to bring in all these products and give it to those rural areas.
It's a fascinating thing. I was just reading a quote as it so happened this morning. There are some marketing experts feel that it takes less to convince a rural consumer to spend than an urban consumer. The urban consumer is jaded, has too many choices, probably makes safer choices or sticks to one choice. The rural consumer is willing to quickly, is an early adapter, as it were, of many things, is willing to go that extra mile to spend, and is easily lurable. Would that be correct?
Yes, I think very right, because they are very excited. The moment you show them something, you want to tell them something, they come back, and in the village, for them it's a status symbol or whatever you call it. I just give one instance. How does it happen? In 1996-97, I was doing a study on Kalahandi belt, where it was a famine-stricken belt, and you will be surprised, somebody had sold a torch, a torch I'm talking about, to a family, and the family was so excited to show me they got a torch. For that, they had actually given 2 bags of grain. Look at that. So that tells, they want to, they're very happy. They say, oh my God, I'm also getting into the same kind of a space. But I think that's not fair.
Okay, hold that thought. We'll come back with much, much more. Remember, exclusive UTVi survey. For the first time, what does rural India really think? You're, of course, watching The People's Budget. Remember, UTVi has done an exclusive survey of the mood of rural India. And somebody's calling in to ask just about that. Go ahead. All right, we seem to have lost a caller. We had a caller from Srinagar. Maybe he'll call back once again. But let me turn to Devinder Sharma at the moment. We're facing drought for all practical purposes if the rains don't come for one more week in the north and the northwest, really, of India. When we talk about the rural economy really being this bulwark for the country, how badly off would we be if in a week there are no rains?
Well, I think if in a week there is no rain, we have no other choice but to press the panic button. We'll have to officially declare a drought in the northwest, and northwest is the football of the country. Let's not forget, roughly about 65 to 70% of the surplus the country has comes from the northwest, Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP. And if things go wrong here, already they are wrong, going bad, we are in for trouble.
Devinder Sharma, a lot of people don't understand why 60 years after independence, why we are still a rain-fed country. Is there a simple answer? Because every time one asks this question, it gets into this great jargon of policy, meteorological technology, all sorts of things, but the real answer. Is there a simple answer? You're known for giving simple answers. What's the simple answer?
It is not possible to bring irrigation to the entire country. When I say irrigation, I'm talking about canal irrigation. Let's be very clear about it. Now, what country has done is 35% roughly is the area which is under irrigation.
Right.
Now, traditionally and historically, we have been a country which has, of course, had a traditional ways of water harvesting or water conservation. There's nothing wrong in that. The tragedy is that we have ignored that. If you look at Karnataka, look at Tamil Nadu, they were the states which were flush with what is called as village ponds, tanks and ponds. The Rajas did that. And now there's all been abandoned, and only 2% of irrigation in Karnataka, for instance, is done by tanks. Whereas if you look at the past, 80% irrigation was being done by tanks. Now, if we had focused on what was traditionally known, we would have really helped build up the so-called drought proofing the country requires. We are going in for things like drip irrigation, everything that the country needs, we think the solutions lie outside the country. That has been the biggest problem that we face in the development sector.
Okay, I was just reading the Narmada project, for instance, which spent roughly, 11,000 crores on it?
Yeah.
Nothing, virtually no. I mean, the benefits are almost being negligible, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you look at what the CAG report said, a number of them, they have all indicated that the money, instead of going to the irrigation, the water, instead of going to the agriculture irrigation, has gone to the companies now, has gone to the industries. So it's quite obvious it was meant for something under the garb of saying that, we will be improving irrigation and so on. Look at, you have forgotten, the nation has forgotten, there was a Sharda Sahayak Canal network in eastern UP. Right. At one time, it was supposed to be Asia's biggest irrigation network, canal network. And it was supposed to bring second green revolution to eastern Uttar Pradesh. Where is that revolution? I'm talking of 1980-84. And that was the time.
3 decades ago.
3 decades ago. Nothing has happened. Nobody knows about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. So I think much of it is just because we want to make an investment, somebody gains out of that investment. So therefore, there is a pressure at that time. But I don't think agricultural areas have actually benefited from these kinds of projects.
Okay, let me quickly come back to the survey for a bit. One of the most fascinating parts of the survey for me was this entire loan waiver, which I began the show with. Do you believe effectively that waiving loans works?
Yes.
Basically.
Generally not. But today, if you look at Indian agriculture, the situation is terrible. Agrarian crisis is passing through the worst phase. And I think what we need to do is we need to write off not only the loans that, they have written off is about 4 crore farmers. We need to write off loans for all farmers, start afresh. Otherwise, things are going to be compounded in the days to come. And let me tell you, the suicide rate has not slowed down. It's only that it's not being reported. If it was not for the Vidarbha Jan Andolan, we would have never known how many people are dying in Vidarbha. So I think that kind of effort is not happening in the other
But the question that a lot of people want to ask is, what do you do? I mean, for instance, our loan part of the survey, as it were, shows that only about, more than 50% of the people don't actually take or don't have loans with government institutions at all. So you can't effectively waive those loans. What do you do about those loans? They are basically from usurious money lenders in the village. You can't actually do anything about it.
I agree with you, and that is what the government is also worried about. One of the proposals was that we must register every money lender. I don't think that is what needs to be done. I think we have to reduce the share of money lenders. Also, at the same time, we have one money lender sect that we are all opposed to. Another organized money lending sect is now appearing on the shelf. That is the microfinance. If you look at microfinance, the rate of debt, I don't know whether your survey shows that, the rate that people die, or, when people who have taken loans, 24% to 30%. And if you look at what the rate is, the rate of interest for the microfinance is, it is roughly 20 to 48%.
Okay, hold on for just one moment. We have a caller from Bangalore. Go ahead, ask your question, and welcome to the show.
Very good evening.
Evening.
This is Syed Masood Ahmed from Bangalore. I'd like to ask regarding waiver of farmers' loan, how far it is good?
We just went through that question, but I'll ask Devinder to repeat that. You essentially believe that it's a good thing, right?
Yes, I think so. Because the kind of crisis that agriculture faced, at this particular juncture, there was no other way out. And people who say that, you are spoiling the habit of farmers and so on, and, the people who paid loan, I'm saying everyone should get the benefit at one given time. We have to start afresh. Because the agriculture situation is bad. And I'm sure you'll agree, 187,000 people dying in the last 15 years should be a cause for concern.
When you waive a farm loan, do you believe other big argument has been that entire waiver doesn't really reach the people? It's like 15% of every government rupee spent, only 15% reaches the people, 85% doesn't. And today Rahul Gandhi argues only 5% reaches, only 5% reaches. Does the loan waiver also work like that, or does that entire benefit really reach the people it's intended?
I don't think so. I don't think that the Rajiv Gandhi formula works here, because these are the banks transacting with the farmers.
Right.
And I think when the farmer goes and says this is what loan he has taken for and so on, there is a little bit of problem. The farmers have taken loan for his house building and so on. There has been a conflict on that, which I think the government has tried to resolve. But more important, I think this is the way. Otherwise, if you give money, then it doesn't reach. But if you're asking the banks to right away, I think that works. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a very quick break, come back and ask really one of the most critical, the fact that what does rural India really feel? Remember, an exclusive UTVi voter survey, the mood of rural India. Drought almost drought rather. I shouldn't use the D word until it's actually officially declared, but almost drought in parts of India. What does it really mean for all of us? Devinder Sharma, are we beginning to use the D word?
Well, I think another 7 days, I think we should wait. But yes, there is a dry spell, a serious dry spell. But if the dry spell prolongs and becomes a drought, I think it will have a terrible impact on the entire economy. Because if the foundation, agriculture, something goes wrong, then of course, as you know, the industry, the business, the trade, everything suffers. So I think.
Okay, hold on to this thought for a moment. We have one last caller. Go ahead from Andhra Pradesh. Welcome to the show and quickly ask your question.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hello. Sir, I'm a...
Ask your question, go ahead.
Yes, I am a Grameen Bank, that is Rural Regional Bank manager from Andhra Pradesh. I have been working for the last 21 years in the rural areas as a branch manager. The waiver, this loan waiver, about this loan waiver, I have got an opinion to make. That is, the loan waiver is absolutely diluted by the agriculture jewel loans inclusion in this because most of the people who got this waiver is jewel loan people, agriculture jewel loan people who have lot of jewels. They are very good, very well-off farmers also. These things have damaged the government's very.
Okay, let's quickly answer your question. We are almost out of time. Thanks very much. It's a very important point. Very quickly, he's saying there are, of course, rich farmers who take the garb of this loan to actually escape their debt.
I agree with that, what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of farmers, so just because there is this class of farmers, you can't, blame the other farmers also for that.
Right.
I
so
agree.
to be more strict, accountability.
That's right. That's right.
Waive off the loans, but be more strict. That's the lesson.
And I think it's very clear. The government said 2 hectares.
Right.
So I don't think they are very big farmers in 2
hectares.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Final word. 10 seconds. One last line. If you were to really say what is the mood of rural India today, what would you say?
I think it's very depressed.
Okay, very depressed. So remember, we at UTVi along with T-Voter will continue to do these surveys. What does the country feel? What does economy really feel? Urban and rural, especially focus on rural India. We do hope the rains come in north and northwest. That's the food bowl of the country. With that optimistic hope, good night. Thanks very much for watching.